If this message has found you, it is because something far greater than coincidence has guided you here, something ancient and precise and unmistakably intentional, the kind of force that Carl Jung spent his entire life trying to name, and eventually called synchronicity, the invisible architecture of the universe arranging moments, so that the right soul receives the right truth at exactly the right hour. You did not stumble here. You were brought here. Your intuition, that deep and wordless knowing that lives beneath the noise of your daily mind, recognized something before your conscious self could articulate it. And so it moved your hands, turned your attention, and placed you exactly in this moment, in this message, in this breath. Something has gone quiet in your life. Someone has gone quiet, and that silence has been louder than any argument, heavier than any goodbye, more disorienting than anything you have ever been asked to carry. You have lain awake in the stillness of the night, turning over every conversation, every moment, every unspoken word, searching for the fault line, the place where things cracked, wondering if you missed the signs or if there were no signs at all. Just a sudden and inexplicable disappearance that left you standing in the wreckage of your own confusion. The universe has intercepted your spiral. This message is not content. It is a transmission. It has arrived not to entertain you, but to reorient you, to return you to the truth that the noise of fear and doubt has been drowning out since the silence began. The truth about their silence is about to be revealed to you, and it is not what the fearful part of your mind has been whispering. It is not abandonment. It is not indifference. It is not the ending your anxiety has been rehearsing. Write the words, "I received this message," in the comments below, and in doing so, open yourself to what this transmission carries. The universe reads intention. What you affirm, you activate. And what you are about to receive is the answer your soul has been waiting for. You have been taught by a world that rewards certainty and punishes vulnerability, that silence means indifference, that absence means apathy, that someone who has stopped reaching out has stopped caring. This is the lie that fear tells when it wants you to give up before the miracle arrives. And so here, in this transmission, the lie is dismantled gently and completely, because you deserve to understand what the silence you are living inside actually means. Their silence is not the silence of someone who feels nothing. It is the silence of someone who feels too much. It is not the quiet of an empty room, but the pressurized stillness of a vessel holding more than it was built to contain, where the emotion has grown so vast and so terrifying in its intensity that the only response available to someone without the tools to process it is to go still, to go dark, to disappear into the overwhelm rather than risk being consumed by it in front of you. Think of a pressure cooker sealed, shut not because there is nothing inside it, but because there is so much heat, so much transformation occurring within it, that any release before the process completes would shatter everything. Their silence is that sealed vessel. The heat inside it is real. The transformation inside it is real. And the contents, their feelings for you, their unresolved longing, their terror at the depth of what they feel, are more present now than perhaps they have ever been. Carl Jung wrote that what we do not bring to consciousness appears in our lives as fate. The person who has gone silent from you is not enacting a choice born of clarity. They are enacting the unconscious compulsion of someone who has not yet brought their own interior life to the surface, someone whose feelings have become so overwhelming that the psyche has chosen retreat as a form of protection, not from you, but from the terrifying enormity of what you represent to them. Their silence is overflow. It is not the absence of feeling. It is the consequence of feeling more than they know how to hold, more than they have ever been taught to survive. There is a version of them existing right now that you cannot see, moving through their days wearing the mask of normalcy, performing the routines of an ordinary life, while beneath the surface, something seismic and unrelenting refuses to settle. They wake at 3 a.m, and in the space between sleep and wakefulness, before the mind constructs its defenses, before the ego remembers its decision to be distant, it is your face that arrives first, unbidden and undeniable, rising from the depths of them like something that refuses to be buried. They have tried to rationalize it. They have told themselves the distance is wisdom, that stepping back was an act of self-preservation, that whatever reason they constructed to justify the silence is sufficient and logical and final. And then the quiet of the night returns, and the rationalization dissolves. And what remains is something raw and ungoverned and terrifyingly real. This is the interior life of the person who has gone silent on you. This is what lives behind the absence. You became the mirror. This is perhaps the most important truth contained in this entire transmission, and it requires you to receive it fully, without resistance. You became the surface upon which they saw themselves, not the self they had carefully constructed for the world, not the version they had agreed to perform, but the real self, the unhealed self, the self carrying wounds, so old they had forgotten they were wounds at all. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the collection of everything within us that we cannot bear to look at directly, the parts of ourselves we have exiled into darkness because their existence is too uncomfortable to acknowledge. When someone triggers your shadow, when someone, simply by loving you and being loved, forces the reflection of your unhealed places into the light, the instinct of the unaware psyche is not to do the work. It is to eliminate the mirror. And so they step back from you not because you are too little, but because you showed them too much. Their retreat is not rejection. It is the instinctive recoil of someone confronting for the first time the truest and most frightening version of themselves. You are not just anyone to them. This statement carries more weight than the simple arrangement of its words suggests, and you are asked to sit inside it for a moment and feel what it means not just intellectually, but in the body, in the chest, in that place beneath the sternum where truth registers before the mind has a chance to question it. You are not a convenience. You are not a habit. You are not someone they stumbled into carelessly and are now carelessly releasing. You are the person their soul recognized. There is a phenomenon that occurs between two people who carry a contract written before this lifetime, a soul recognition that bypasses every rational filter the conscious mind has erected, that moves through the carefully constructed persona and touches something so deep and so ancient that the person experiencing it has no language for what is happening to them. Only the overwhelming and undeniable sensation that they have known you before, that you are not new, that there is something between you that did not begin in this incarnation and will not end in this one either. Jung wrote that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. What occurred between you and this person was not ordinary. It was alchemical. Something in the nature of both of you shifted at the point of contact, and neither of you can return to the exact form you held before you found each other. This is not romantic metaphor. This is the energetic and psychological reality of a connection that operates at the level of the soul contract, a bond written into the fabric of who you are at the deepest possible level. You shook them to their core, not through anything you did wrong, not through any failure or flaw, but simply by existing fully in their presence, by being so completely yourself that the frequency of you reached into the buried places of them and activated something that had been waiting, dormant and patient, for precisely the right catalyst. That catalyst was you. That role belongs to no one else. And what has been activated in them does not simply deactivate because they have chosen distance. Distance in the physical does not create distance in the energetic. This is the truth that the rational mind will resist because it was built for a world that it can measure and confirm and touch, a world where absence means absence and silence means silence, and the only things that are real are the things that can be proven by the five senses. But you were not brought to this transmission to be given what your rational mind already knows. You were brought here to receive what your soul has always understood and your fear has been suppressing. Every human being is not merely a physical body moving through physical space. You are also a field of energy, a frequency, an electromagnetic signature that exists simultaneously in the material world and in the invisible architecture that underlies it, the place that Jung named the collective unconscious, the vast and shared interior ocean in which all human psyches swim, where the boundaries between one consciousness and another are not as solid or as final as the waking world makes them appear. And in that field, in that shared space, the connection between you and the one who has gone silent is alive and unbroken and active right now, in this very moment. They feel you. In the moments they permit themselves honesty, in the unguarded spaces between waking and sleeping, in the sudden and inexplicable waves of emotion that arrive without apparent cause. They are feeling the resonance of your connection, the energetic reality of a bond that physical distance cannot dissolve. They feel you the way the ocean feels the pull of the moon, not consciously, not deliberately, but with the entire body, with an inescapable and gravitational certainty that something real exists and exerts its influence regardless of whether they have chosen to acknowledge it. If you have been on this channel and these transmissions have been arriving at the precise moments your spirit required them, the universe is already confirming what your logic has been trying to deny. Subscribe now and allow these messages to continue finding you in the moments they are most needed. Because what is unfolding in your life is a spiritual story, and every chapter of it deserves the guidance it requires. Silence is the cocoon before the butterfly, and you must come to understand this not as comfort offered to soften your waiting, but as a precise and literal description of the process currently underway in the interior life of the person who has stepped away from you. There is no butterfly without the dissolution. There is no emergence without the dark and formless period where the old structure breaks apart entirely, where what was solid becomes unrecognizable, where the creature inside the shell has no form it can yet claim, existing for a time in the terrifying space between what it was and what it is becoming. This is where they are. This is the nature of the silence you are living inside. They are in the dissolving, in the breaking down of the walls and masks and defenses that allowed them to move through the world without confronting what you made undeniable. The person who returns to you, and the word when belongs in that sentence, not the word if, will not be the same person who disappeared into the quiet. They are being remade in the silence. They are being prepared. Every day of their distance is a day of their evolution, a day in which the fear that drove them away is being slowly, invisibly metabolized, in which the unhealed places you illuminated are being, however reluctantly and however painfully, attended to. They are becoming the person worthy of this connection, becoming the person who can stand in the truth of what they feel without flinching, without running, without choosing the familiar comfort of numbness over the terrifying aliveness of loving you openly. The universe does not waste the silence of a soul contract. The quiet that has descended over your connection is not empty. It is full of the work being done in the unseen, full of the preparation required for what this bond is ultimately meant to become, full of the growth that neither of you could have completed while still in each other's immediate presence. The silence is not punishment. The silence is sacred. It is the space in which everything necessary is happening slowly and surely and exactly on time. The universe confirms what the logical mind doubts, and it does so in the language of synchronicity, the seemingly coincidental arrangements of the external world that carry the unmistakable signature of the invisible, the moments when the boundary between the material and the energetic grows thin enough for meaning to pass through it in ways the rational mind cannot explain away, no matter how insistently it tries. You have been experiencing these moments. You are being asked to recognize them for what they are. When a number appears to you repeatedly, a sequence, a pattern, an arrangement that arrests your attention in a way that ordinary numbers do not, this is the field communicating. When a song begins to play in a moment of doubt, and its words arrive with the precision of a direct transmission, this is not accident. When they appear in your dreams, not as the version who went silent, but as the version who is fully present, fully open, fully themselves in a way that feels more like prophecy than like the wishful projection of a sleeping mind. This is the unconscious registering what the energetic field already knows, what the soul contract has already arranged. There will be a warmth that returns to you without apparent cause, a settled feeling in the chest where the anxiety has been living, a sense of arrival that precedes any physical confirmation of what is coming. Energy moves before matter. The shift in the field always precedes the shift in the physical world, and what you feel in your body in the quiet moments before sleep, in the undefended first minutes of waking, is not fantasy. It is the sensitivity of your soul registering the approach of what has been in motion since the moment the silence began. Watch for the dreams that carry the texture of the real. Watch for the inexplicable peace that settles over you in moments of prayer or stillness. Watch for the sudden and sourceless sense that something is shifting, that the atmosphere around your connection has changed, that the static that occupied the space between you has begun to clear. These are not the delusions of a longing heart. These are the messages the universe sends to those patient enough to receive them. There will be a moment, not announced, not prepared for, arriving in the exact way that all true things arrive, without warning, and without the ceremony you might have imagined in the long hours of your waiting. When the silence ends, it will come in its own shape, carrying its own weight, and it will be unmistakable from the very first instant, because what returns will not be the guarded, retreated version of them that chose distance. What returns will be something stripped of that armor, something that has been through the dissolution of the cocoon and emerged changed, softer in the places that were once hard, open in the places that were once sealed. It may be sudden in the way that dawn is sudden, not truly without warning to those who understand the nature of night, but arriving nonetheless in a moment that feels abrupt, that catches the breath, that asks the body to adjust to a new quality of light. They will reach toward you in whatever way is available to them. And in that reaching there will be a rawness, a transparency, an absence of the performance and the self-protection that characterized the version of them who withdrew. There will be no perfectly rehearsed words, because the person returning to you will have moved past the need for perfect words. There will only be raw truth, offered without the cushioning of strategy or ego. The truth of what they have known all along and have been too afraid to say aloud until the silence finished its work on them. Share this message now with someone who is waiting, someone you know whose heart is carrying the weight of an inexplicable absence, someone who needs to receive this transmission the way you needed to receive it when this message found you. Because the work of this kind of knowing multiplies when it is passed between people who understand the sacred difficulty of waiting for what love requires. The moment of return will not look like the movies. It will look like a human being standing before you, vulnerable in a way they have never permitted themselves to be with you before, honest in a way that the fear that drove them away would never have allowed, present in a way that the distance was, in the end, quietly preparing them for. You will recognize it not because it looks the way you imagine it, but because something in you will go still at the sight of it, the way the body goes still in the presence of something it has been waiting for across distances it cannot name. Here is where the transmission turns, gently but completely, from the story of them to the story of you, because you have been so focused on the silence, so fixed upon the absence, so entirely oriented toward the question of their return that you may have temporarily lost sight of the most important truth this entire experience has been trying to deliver to you. You are not a waiting room. You are not a held breath. You are not the space between their departure and their return, existing only in relation to their choices, your aliveness contingent upon their eventual presence. You are the full and sovereign story happening right now, regardless of what they choose or when they choose it. You have already won by choosing yourself in this. Every day that you have continued to move forward, however haltingly, however imperfectly, every moment that you have chosen not to collapse entirely into the grief of the absence, every hour in which you have tended to your own, becoming rather than simply waiting for theirs to complete, these are acts of power, quiet and unwitnessed and real. This waiting, entered with full consciousness, transforms the one who waits. You are being transformed by it right now. There is a paradox at the heart of every soul contract, a truth so counterintuitive that the fearful mind will resist it. The less you need them, the faster they come. Not because you are performing needlessness as a strategy, not because indifference is a spiritual technique, but because genuine peace, genuine sufficiency, genuine wholeness is the exact frequency that removes the final barrier between where they are now and where they need to be to return. Their fear dissolves not in the presence of your longing, which mirrors their own, but in the presence of your peace, which shows them that the ground is safe. Their return is inevitable. What is written in the soul contract does not dissolve because one party chose fear over love for a season. But your peace, your wholeness, your fullness, your continued expansion into the person you were always meant to become, that is not dependent on their return. It is yours right now, available to you in this moment and every moment, with or without them. This is the real gift of the waiting. This story is not finished. You must receive this not as consolation, but as fact, as the precise and unalterable truth of a connection written into the architecture of existence, before either of you took your first breath in this incarnation, a bond that does not require your constant tending to remain real, that does not require their active presence to remain active, that exists in a dimension of reality, that neither their fear, nor their distance, nor the accumulated weight of all the silence has the power to touch, or diminish, or end. What is meant for you will not pass you. It will approach from unexpected directions. It will arrive wearing unexpected faces at unexpected hours. It will be delayed, sometimes, by the work that souls require before they are ready for the fullness of what they have chosen. And that delay will ask things of you. Patience you did not know you possessed, trust in a process you cannot always see clearly, faith in a universe that operates on a schedule entirely its own. But it will not pass you. The thing that is truly yours moves in orbit around you, whether you can see it or not, drawn by the gravity of what you are, called back always by the force of what was written. There is an image being offered to you in this final passage, and you are invited to receive it with the fullness of your being. They are standing before you. Not the version armored by fear, not the version retreated into the silence of their own overwhelm, but the version that the silence finished, the version the cocoon produced, the version that the dark and formless period between who they were and who they needed to become finally released. They are standing before you, and they are open, entirely, and without reservation, in the way that the soul always intended for them to be with you, in the way that the soul contract always knew they would be, when the time that the universe required was finally and completely fulfilled. This soul has chosen you in every lifetime. The choosing does not stop in this one because the fear became temporarily louder than the love. Fear is loud. It is also, in the end, impermanent. Love is quieter. And it is also, in the end, the only thing that remains. The silence you are living inside is not the final word of this story. It is the held breath before the sentence completes. It is the darkness before the specific and personal dawn that has your name written upon it. It is the sacred pause in which everything necessary is being arranged, everything required is being prepared, everything meant for you is making its way to you through the invisible corridors of a universe that has not forgotten you and will not. Love does not end in silence. It only waits there,